Good afternoon, everybody, or should I better yet say good evening? We are Lines In Live, powered by Battleborn Batteries and presented to you by Primary Tackle. Got my good buddy in here in the house with me, David Best. Dave, what's going on, man? I see you got a fancy little sign there behind you now. You're flashing for us, buddy. Uh-oh.
Mom is making all these neat little signs, and she volunteered to do me one. This thing's really cool. I mean, it does different colors. You can do everything with it. So if you got need for a neat little sign like this, I can get you hooked up with one of those too. So anybody out there looking for something for their business or for a podcast or whatever else.
Yeah, I need to get me one for my background. I'm still working on my background, but I'll tell you what, we got the internet working a little bit better. The situation there. I practically put the computer on top of the router today, so we should be golden. We shouldn't be having any interruptions or anything like that. But man, I'm excited for today, guys. We got a great show lined up for you. We got Adam Reiser, who's going to be coming on and talking to us. We're going to be just hanging out, talking about all kinds of stuff, fishing and whatnot. But he's recently started a kayak guiding service, and it's kind of David, you and I talked about that, man. It's kind of somewhat uncharted waters there. But I find it really interesting, man, because I think right now, with the way kayak fishing is, the limits are endless. The opportunities are there for people to do stuff like that, and so I think it's really cool. He's kicking that off. But man, I want to talk about this past weekend real quick. Pretty epic weekend. We had Eric Siddiqui won the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship. And it was a close call. He pulled it off by a quarter of an inch, but needless to say, he won that tournament. So real big accomplishment for him there. I know he's really excited about that. I think he came in like second place, one of the first championships. So he's tasted the victory before. He's been right there, and he finally got it. And then, dude, my man Jason Christie pulled it off finally. He got the win at the Classic. I was no shame, no hate on Welcher or Stetson Blaylock, man, but I was pulling for Christie, and I don't know if he got some last minute calls and in the last 45 minutes because they cut the live feed off, and he come back in and he won it. So did you get a chance to watch any of that, David?
I really didn't. I have been so enthralled in the business over here and just trying to get everything done and make sure I have all my ducks in a row. So when I go to Center Hill next weekend, I can think about fishing. And I did get to fish a little bit this last weekend, which that was kind of fun. I took 2 hours and went and hit one of my little lakes here locally and caught a couple of bigs. I was pretty happy with that for a 2-hour fishing trip. So.
Yeah, do. They were chewing this past weekend, man. Really good. I heard it from multiple people that Herb Parsons was fishing really good. We saw several people. We saw some people out there catch them on top water on Pickwick. Adam even posted up a picture. We'll talk about that. He got one on a buzzbait somewhere, but man, and now it's cold again. So.
Look, this is the time of year you get 3 or 4 really good days, and you get some warm weather, some warm rain, and a cold front coming in the day before. You are going to smack them. I mean, this is one of those. That's why I made 2 hours Saturday morning and win.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just to make sure, because I knew I could go catch at least a couple of really good ones. So
yeah. That's them days you tell the girls, like, hey, look, y'all going to go up there. Y'all going to open up the store. And I'm going fishing.
Well, that's basically what I did. So, and I'm probably going to do that same thing Thursday afternoon or Friday morning again this week because
there you go.
We got a couple of warmer days coming, and through. So it's going to be time to go bust a couple more.
Yeah. Speaking of what's coming up, there's a lot of. It's really about to get pretty busy. There's a lot of tournaments about to happen. Hobie has got Santee Cooper coming up. We got the Tennessee Bass Nation, the next Tennessee Bass Nation tournament going down on Center Hill, not this weekend, but the following weekend. Some warm days, the week leading up to that too. So I'm hoping, that the fishing will be pretty good. I'm sure it will be. And then we roll into April. You and I were just talking about this, and it's pretty much going to be crazy. I know I've got 3 weeks back to back that it's Grand Lake, Eufaula, and then what was it? I can't remember the other one. But
Grand Lake, Eufaula,
no broken bows in there. That's in May.
We're forgetting somebody.
Yeah. Tennessee Bass Nation and WTBY combined tournament on Kentucky Lake.
Oh yeah, mid-April. Yeah.
I know you can't forget about that one. That's the one you've got marked on your calendar.
That's yeah.
You got a notification on your phone set for that one.
I do. I'll be there. I might not get there till 8 o'clock, but I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, we got some people in the comments. Cody Hughes, what's up, buddy? No, did you get your newish boat yet, or your new boat? Cody said he was having some boat trouble this past weekend. He was going to jump into a new one. Our buddy Brandon Palmer with Proteus Rod. What's going on, man? Good to see you guys in the comments. I'm sure some more people are going to be tuning in. But David, before we get Adam on, anything you want to talk about with the store, or
No, I mean, we got the best stock of kayaks we've had in a long, long time. Lots of accessories. So come out and see us. Want to make sure we mention the St. Jude Bass Classic, Kayak Bass Classic. So don't forget, we got entry forms here at the shop for that. We got a lot of new product in the building on both sides, Ice Mule and some other stuff going on. So got a couple of little things coming up on the primary tackle side that I'm still waiting on a few confirmations to fix some things and do some things there. So I'm not going to talk about that yet, but got some neat stuff coming up there as well. Yep. So keep tuning in for that.
Speaking, I'm glad you mentioned the St. Jude. So just to add to that, it's it is this May 29th charity tournament for St. Jude that we're going to be running. It's the first year that we're running this tournament in conjunction with the St. Jude Bass Classic that's been going on for 48 years and has raised over $4.5 million throughout those years. So I want to add, just for people that may not be close to the shop, I'm going to share this up on the screen. David, can you see that?
Not yet.
Let's see. Here we go.
There you go.
So you can go to our website, kayakfishing.com, and up at the very top, in the right here, St. Jude Kayak Classic, just click on that and scroll down, and you can download the registration file for that tournament. Fill it out. It's got the address in there that you will need to mail that in, and you should get an email once they receive your registration, letting you know that you're in there. It's a little bit different than we're used to, but this is just the way that they do it. With under the Children for Life Corporation. That's how they've been doing it with the Bass Classic for years. So we're just kind of following suit with that. So pick up your registration there, or go and see David in the store, and he'll get you taken care of.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and get Adam Reiser in here. I'm going to give him a little introduction. Adam Reiser, he's just an all-around great dude. Tennessee, I mean, just a hammer all around. He's got a lot of accomplishments. We're excited to talk to him about his latest venture with the kayak guiding service. So without waiting any longer, let's get him in here.
All right. Good evening, guys. Justin, David, good to talk to you.
Good to talk.
Hey, man. How's the sound? You guys can hear us pretty good, Dave?
I got y'all great. How about me? Am I coming in loud and clear for you guys?
Good.
Oh yeah, yep. Well, man, it's really awesome to have you on the show, dude. You've kind of you're well known in the kayak community, and we definitely have some people on here that are not just kayak anglers. So I'd like to give a little bit of an introduction, and I like to share some stats about our our guests. I get on Tourney
Cool.
X and just look at the stats, man. I think it's cool, just to kind of give you that little bit of representation. So, and I know this is not going to be an accurate representation because I'm sure you fish a lot of stuff that's not on Tourney X. But overall, 205 tournaments, 785 verified fish. First place finishes, you got 16. Second place, 12. Third, 11. And top 10 finishes, 78. So, dude, it's an average. Your average length is 16 and a half inches, man. That's pretty impressive. So give us a little bit of backstory on you, just, where you come from and just kind of how you got started in the kayak fishing game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Florence, Alabama, Florence Muscle Shoals area. So those of you who don't know, that's where Pickwick Lake is on the Tennessee River. Grew up, just fishing catfish ponds or fishing from the bank with my father. Just fish for whatever would bite, not knowing what we're doing, just enjoying fishing. So that was my intro to fishing. But I spent all my 20s living in Southern California. I lived in Huntington Beach. And when I was out there, I fully embraced surfing. I got into surfing big time. But then I had a back injury that took me out of surfing. And it was pretty severe. Like at its worst, I couldn't even dress myself. And I really had to rehab it over the course of a couple of years, but I still wanted to be outside and around water since surfing was such a big thing for me. But, had to ease back on it. And what that turned into was me walking around some of the city park ponds and casting a lure in there and having no idea what I was doing. But I'd ran into a few other guys that were kind of on the same entry level as me. And so we'd be like, what did you catch a little 12-inch bass on last week? And then that turned into, you know what, I've got a kayak in my garage that my family never uses. Let's take it out. So, I started out with a tandem kayak with my buddy out in California. And I don't know, this is probably around 2011, 2012, something around there, maybe 2010. I can't really exactly remember the exact date, but I started actually giving attention to what it takes to catch a bass, and doing it in Southern California is much different than it is in the Southeast. Well, after a couple of years of bass fishing in SoCal, I knew I was moving back to Florence, and I moved back to Florence knowing I was going to be around Pickwick. So I was like, well, I'm going to fish as much as I can. And I ended up getting my own kayak once I came out back to the Southeast. And man, for about a year and a half, multiple days a week, I would just go out on Pickwick and teach myself how to bass fish, plain and simple. I didn't fish with anyone else. I never talked to anyone else about fishing. I just went out and learned all I could. I fully absorbed all the YouTube knowledge that you can get out there. And then I think it was around 2015, I moved to the Nashville area where I'm at now and have been since. And so just every body of water, river, lake, stream, whatever, within a 2 or 3 hour radius, I've probably made multiple visits there, and quickly fell into the kayak tournament scene in Middle Tennessee. I was lucky to have people like Craig Dye as my club director at the time. So had a lot of good mentors and a lot of guys that were already what I considered seasoned veterans of kayak fishing and kayak tournament fishing. And I've just kind of been all in ever since. There's often times where I wish I didn't enjoy chasing bass as much as I did, because I'm guilty of neglecting responsibilities in life to go out there and get a bite. But that's basically my history. It's a hybrid mix of like Southeast stuff, but I also take away a lot of my short time and out west as well, which is a little bit different approach to bass fishing too.
So, man, awesome story. Would you say that surfing was your first love?
You know what? It definitely, I've always loved being outdoors in nature, like camping, anything like that. Like just get me outside. The peace and serenity and the just the goodness that it does for you. Like anyone that's done it, they get it. So I think I just need to be out. But man, when you live right by the beach and every day is like perfect weather day, and like where I lived in Huntington Beach is literally called Surf City, USA. So it's very much ingrained into the culture there. So it was easy to immerse myself into that, but it was something special. It resonated with me on a way that nothing really had prior to that. And I think it just had to do with me being around the water. I just love being around the water. I don't know if I could cut it living in a desert or something like that. I just need to have water around. So the surfing thing was a big deal. Really enjoyed it. But man, bass fishing, I can't imagine not bass fishing now. It's definitely what I'm all about.
Yeah, well, that back injury, I'm sure, put a big damper on that for sure. So were you like an army family or something like that, moving around quite a bit, or when you got older, did you start moving around a lot on your own?
Man, I moved around a lot, but not moved doesn't change my address. From about 14 until I was about 26, I traveled the world playing in bands. I used to be a musician, and so uh, I started playing in bands in Alabama, and then we kind of migrated to Nashville. And I'm still a teenager at this point, and like literally every summer break or every winter break when I was in high school, I would take off and go tour. And I was the youngest of my band too. Literally the day I graduated high school, I walked out of the ceremony, got in a van, and went on a full U.S. tour. And I've done dozens of those. And so
Dude, that's awesome.
I was able to get an enrichment from traveling and playing music and seeing the world in those respects. And then that kind of gave me the bug for, what do I need to check out? What other area do I need to consider a possible home
Yeah,
or something like that? But I haven't really, when I say I grew up in North Alabama and then spent time in SoCal and then in Nashville, those are really my three homes. I consider all three of those places like home, but I did a lot of traveling in that time for sure.
so what was the genre of your band?
Man, we played like hardcore punk rock, heavy metal, the stuff that'll make your parents really angry or
Oh
that kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Like that's what I was all about. And which anyone who knows me, they know my like very chill zen demeanor. So some people are caught off guard when I say that I used to play that type of music. But I think we all had a little bit of angst in us when we were all younger.
Oh yeah.
Um,
What year was that you're traveling around do that?
so like my peak touring years was like 2000 to 2006 was
Oh yeah,
probably like, but I still went out with some bands even after I didn't perform in bands. I would be like a tour manager or a guitar tech or whatever could just get me a gig out on the road. Did that as well. But I'd say like early 2000s was definitely the brunt of, like 6 to 8 months out of the year. It felt like I was on the road and not at home.
yeah. Man, that's like the height of a lot of music, in our era right then, dude. So I
Yep.
mean, Pantera was really blazing around that time and stuff, man. A
I
lot
mean,
of really good
Pantera
music.
might be my favorite band. Pantera might be
Oh,
my favorite band. So.
it is mine, dude. It's still, yeah, he may be gone, man, but that is one of the only dudes other than Wild that can shred like that.
I've got a lot of story. I did a tour with the guy that grew up with Dimebag Darrell from Pantera. Like went to kindergarten with him, and so he knew Vinny and Dime. And Vinny from Pantera owned a bus fleet and a bus company that he would rent his buses out to bands. Well, we ended up being on one of Vinny's buses, and Vinny's buddy that grew up with him, was our bus driver. And so you bet I was in that front seat of that bus every single night on tour,
Yeah.
asking him like Pantera questions. We got to go to Vinny Paul's house in Dallas, and now
Oh
I've got
man.
stories, man. I've got
Oh,
stories.
dude. We're gonna have to talk offline about that.
Yeah, I
That's
got
awesome.
stories.
Man, so our buddy Brandon, he wants to know, you guys, do you listen to music while you're out on the water?
No, I don't. I am too easily distracted by like nature. Like I'll get excited about a fox or an eagle or something like that, and will forget that I need to give attention to, kicking my hobie around harder or pay attention what the fish are doing. One of the things I had to learn, and I'm still learning in my tournament, is that tournament fishing is that I needed to be more ferocious. I'd see my buddies win tournaments, and I was like, what are they doing? And they had an intensity level to them that I did not have. I was just happy to be out there and get the peace and serenity and all the good things that nature gives you when you get out there for a session on the water. But I had to learn how to be more ferocious. So, which for me, meant being more focused and more intense and in the moment, and that it wasn't such a leisurely thing when you're actually trying to win a tournament. So, no, I don't listen to music. I need minimal distractions out there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I would if I listen to Pantera in the kayak, it may just it may turn into something completely different.
Well, if
Would
I had,
not be-
if I had to kick across the lake, that may get me across the lake a little bit
yeah,
quicker
that
now that I
yeah
think about it. But
yeah that get those
maybe I
legs
should.
moving.
Yeah, that's a consideration.
Yeah. Well, man, dude, it's interesting. You come out of you come out of Florence, you come out of Pickwick. David. I mean, probably better than all of us. I mean, um, and we're we kind of consider Pickwick our home lake to an
Yeah,
extent.
sure.
We're just an hour and a half, 2 hours down the road. But most everybody around here in Memphis, if you're going fishing, you're typically going out that direction.
Yeah.
Pickwick Lake, Bay Springs, Kentucky Lake.
Kentucky
There.
Lake.
I mean, we say this all the time. There's no good fishing around here in Memphis, but there's a lot of great fishing 2 hours in any direction. But you just see so many great anglers come out of Pickwick.
Yep.
Even Siddiqui. He grew up fishing
Yep.
Pickwick.
That's correct.
So man, there's something to be said for that lake.
It teaches. It's such a teaching fishery. Like every type of fishing, like bass fishing 101, you can check off every box there, which is I really do attribute that lake specifically to any degree of like fast forwarded knowledge or success that I think I was able to find. Like Pickwick taught it to me, and I would say Kentucky Lake too, but I only got in the last year or two of Kentucky Lake before the carp really decimated it. But anything just on the Tennessee River, from Chick all the way down to Kentucky Lake, that's why you see so many of the boat pros and just so many excellent fishermen over the decades. Like Tennessee River is about as good of an education as you can get when it comes to catching a bass.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just like you said, it's just such a diverse place. You can do anything from ledge fishing, bluff walls, to fishing grass, to fishing shallow flats. There's just and current and lack of current.
Multi-species too, some brown ones, green ones, whatever. It's all there.
Ones, whatever. So that's it.
I would add too that, I mean, it's such a good fishery that we all know that confidence is key, man. It don't matter if you're throwing a blade of grass on the end of your line. If you got confidence that it's going to catch something, that is huge in the sport. So I mean, I would just add that lake just being as good of a fishery as it is, you can go out there and you can work on whatever you want to work on, man, and gain confidence in new lures and techniques. So.
And that's what I did. I would pick a new technique or lure and just like spend a few days and only do that. And since like you don't, at least like in the spring and the summer when I would normally like really put the hours in, you don't have to fish too hard to run in and get a bite and go, okay, that's how that lure works, or I need to pair it up with this line and rod size. Like it's the best place to get educated in a hurry and fast forward it.
Exactly. So you used to live around Nashville, and I know you used to work out there, in downtown area. Are you still doing that?
No. And I'll go ahead and jump into the kind of how the guide thing came about, because that ties into it. So March 2020, when COVID hit, Nashville's service industry the last several years, and tourism industry more than anything, especially down on Broadway, has just boomed. It's been literally to where the city can't even control it. It's been so popular and so many people come down there. And I was very much involved in that service industry. And it was great because I could, if I wasn't fishing a tournament on the weekend, I would just work like a 9 a.m. to midnight shift, like Friday, Saturday, then part day Thursday or Sunday. And then I would have the midweek when most other people are working a normal job to go fishing. So those days on the lake when hardly anyone's there, I'm out there fishing, and the flexibility of that job allowed me to still fish, still learn, still get in on tournaments when I could, while still making money. But then when COVID hit, service industry just got decimated big time, and so I was already before COVID, considering doing the guide thing. I was just kind of putting it off, putting it on the back burner. Well, that just forced me to jump into it, and it is definitely more premature than I would have liked to. But I just kind of put the feelers out there and said, hey, if you want a guide trip, let's see what we can do. And I am the son of two English teachers. I'm very lucky to have the parents that I do, and they whether it comes to articulating or instruction, those are both strong suits of mine. And so I saw the guiding out of a kayak as an opportunity, and uh, it was, I kind of wasn't sure where to start. I've got a couple buddies like Cody Milton and Russ Snyder's. Those guys have guided, but they started in a boat, even though they will do some guiding out of a kayak now. So I consulted them, but I kind of just put myself out there like, hey, if you want to learn electronics, if you want to learn big swim baits, because I've done the whole big swim bait thing, or I even like had tournament bass boat guys where I would do a guide trip from their boat.
Wow.
I let them drive and everything. I don't care to get into that whole thing. I have no business driving a boat or even working a trolling boat. Or I'm a tried and true kayak angler for sure. I have no history in a bass boat. But whether they want to learn something for tournament considerations or like bass fishing concepts or like I said, the big baits, all those sounded good to me, and I've done all of those. The only thing that I usually steer away from, or I'm happy to refer some of my other guide buddies, is if someone's just wanting to catch as many fish as they can that day and really not know why or anything. I would rather do a trip where I can have a client where I can teach them something that they're going to be able to learn, grow on, and add to their skill sets as things continue. But man, out of a kayak, like if a client's trying to book a catch as many fish as possible on a random date that's 9 weeks from now, and you don't have a motor on either kayak, that's kind of tough to guarantee that you're going to go out there and catch a bunch of fish, especially if you're talking
Yeah.
bass. Like, if you're talking crappie or hybrids or something, that may be a little different. I might could do that, but and so that's why I haven't bothered like firing up a website or any of that, because I still want to allow for time to do my tournaments too. I'm still just as much into the tournaments, if not more into that than I am the guiding thing. But man, so far it's been incredible. I've had the best clients, and one client ends up referring to the future one, or
Yeah.
one social media post where a client's like got a smile on their face gripping a fish, like that does a big thing. So I haven't had to do the normal route that most other guides would have to do, thankfully. And I'm still learning, still filling it out, but so far all my trips have been a success, and I've been lucky to have good clients, and I truly enjoyed doing it. You'll hear guides talk about when they get excited when their client catches a fish. Like that makes me more excited than any fish I could catch. Like being able to
Yeah.
put someone else on a fish or see a light bulb go off when they're looking at their graph and watch a fish eat it in real time on the graph. Like those are the rewards to me. That's what's really special to me when I do it. But that's kind of the summary of what's my last couple of years of guidance been and how it started, I suppose.
Yeah. You mentioned in one of your posts I saw on Facebook that you do electronics classes. So how could that work out for somebody that wanted to contact you and say, Adam, I really want to learn how to use 2D sonar a little bit better. How can you do that? When you're in your kayak and they're in theirs.
I've done it all kinds of ways. I've taken clients out when they don't have any electronics, and I'll literally tether them up to my kayak to where we're moving as if they're practically in my boat. I tilt my screen towards them so I can point at it. I'm right beside them, and that works out just fine. And then if they have their own, we'll probably start out tethered up, and I'll kind of show, or I'll dial in their electronics to the settings I believe are going to benefit them the most, and tweak things on their graph, and then after that, I'll show them where to scan a brush pile or a piece of structure or cover, and then I'll be like, all right, hit it from this angle, and it's kind of whatever the client needs or whatever it is. Some of them are brand new to it, and they need to start the most like entry level thing as possible, and other guys are like, all right, I understand this and this, but I want to get the confidence is what I lack as far as feeling like, is that for sure what I'm looking for, whether it's a contour or a fish. And so that's when we can really get into the details then and really focus on that. So it's either way. And then on the bass boats, obviously, I just dial in their graph and be like, here's what you're looking for. But yeah, you don't
Yeah.
even have to have electronics for me to. I had a really good Del Hollow trip with some guys a couple years ago. We were able to get that Demiki rig bite going, and he didn't have a graph, and he just sat beside me and in real time watched that fish come up and smash his bait, just because he's next to mine, So it
Yeah.
doesn't take much.
That's awesome, man. Are you following suit with the last scope deal? Have you jumped on that
Man,
bandwagon yet?
you bet that I'm eager to get that. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but in all honesty, the thing with me, I'm waiting on Humminbird.
Are
I
you?
want to run.
Okay.
I want to run straight birds. I'm a big advocate of Lake Master mapping. To me, I value that over any sonar frequency of any brand right now. And since that's what you run with Humminbird, and I mean Hummingbird's got great sonar stuff too, but I don't want to have a bunch of brands on. We're in kayaks; it's already limited
Yeah.
real estate on those things, and so um, it's more worth it to me to let Humminbird finalize, because I think they're still working out the kinks on their Mega Live technology. And who knows, I may combine that with their 362, but I told myself probably even over a year ago, I was like, even though I know Garmin and Lowrance have some fantastic forward-facing stuff right now, I just wanted to wait till I can go full Humminbird on that, and uh, we'll
Yeah.
see. I highly doubt it'll be this season. I'll have to win me a couple real big tournaments to justify picking that up, but
Yeah.
I
Same.
know that the longer I wait, the more I get behind the curve on all that, and so I'm excited to. I've watched the videos. I fully understand the technology. I know how it works and what you need to do and how not to get distracted in that stuff too. But I sure have a feeling I'm going to be able to put it to use when I do get it. It sounds like it's right in my wheelhouse as far as watching fish behavior live on a graph.
Well, that's an interesting point you made, and kind of like the I guess the perspective I've taken on it is, I'm not getting it right now. I don't know if I will, but you've got all this time to sit back and watch other people and kind of see like the mistakes that they're making with it, and how they're improving on it, and then also you get to wait on that technology, because you can bet your butt that Garmin had this technology years ago, before they released it, and they knew, going down the road, like we've got, a Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 already mapped out. We know what this sonar can do. We know how we can improve it on down the road, and we're just going to wait and sell you Gen 1 for a couple of years. And, really Garmin's kind of predictable, because when their sales go, when they go on sale at Bass Pro Shops, you can just about bet
Right?
that they got a Gen 2 coming out, so.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
sure
exactly
enough,
right.
they just released that. But no, it's definitely interesting, man, because the world seems to be moving in that direction where, and I think we're watching the pros. They're winning tournaments with it. You got Wheeler and Connell, their buddies. I mean, they're running the BPT tour right now, and
Yep.
I saw him win. I didn't really get to follow that tournament, but I saw his name pop up, and he was doing good at Fork there a little bit as well. But you're seeing a lot of these older guys that they're just kind of old school methods of run and gun. They're using the technology, but you're seeing the guys that are really doing well with it, and that they're just dialed into it. I mean, they're committed to it fully. It's I like getting different people's perspective on it, because it's just such a hot topic right now, man. And just kind of what other people are thinking about it, and how they're planning on utilizing it
Yep.
moving forward and stuff. But
There's all kinds of takes on it. Whether you're just a fan of the sport and you just watch it, like there's pros and cons that you could say. The guys talking about, well, how fun is it to watch a pro just look down at a graph with his head down the whole time? Whereas you go
yeah,
back a few years ago and they're watching a pro instinctually pick apart an area and make all these like casts that are multiple, if they're power fishing or something like that, like that's fascinating to watch, and boy, you can sure learn a lot like that. So until they can, which I'm sure it'll happen, but they're going to have to throw a split screen up where you can see the pro with their live sonar too. Maybe not showing the map part, so they're not giving away their GPS coordinates, but Yeah, if you show what they're seeing on the live sonar on TV, I'm captivated, and I think anyone
Oh
else would
yeah.
be too. And then as a participant, as an angler in competitive fishing, I think you got a lot of arguments too, if to really hype up or hate on the forward facing too. Cody Milton had a good thought when I was talking to him last year. He was saying he wouldn't be surprised if you see events where it's like, well, how do you set an event where you don't have that the forward facing stuff, and you just have a rule where you limit the frequency level. So you
Hmm.
say you can't have X amount of frequency on there, and that'll rule out those guys. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea to maybe go that
Yeah.
route if you felt like you were just completely overpowering, like I don't know, maybe on like a club or regional level. But at the same time, a few years ago too, before I even known to grap, it was into kayak fishing. You know, I would watch those Tennessee River guys like offshore fish with their side scan. I remember thinking like, oh, I feel like they're cheating. You know, looking at these schools of fish out there. You know, I'm sure a lot of old school guys were thinking the same thing. Like, you know, that hole was a secret for years and years, and then they mapped out those lakes with the crystal clear contour and side imaging, and now we got that. So I don't know
Yeah.
what's next. Some like maybe like some glasses, some eyewear where like you're
Yeah.
seeing the graph like that. It's gonna happen. You know, it's just gonna. It's like our view of underwater, what's going on under the surface of the water. That's the direction it's gonna go. It's just
It
more and
is.
more clear and more of like putting a camera under there, for the
Yeah.
good or the bad. That's how it's gonna happen.
Yeah, you brought up Kentucky Lake earlier, and we're watching that lake go through that curve, and there's a lot of different perspectives on that, or opinions on kind of like, bass, they are going to they're going to adjust, they're going to adapt and stuff like that to the conditions around them, and I don't think that the Asian carp are any different. They're, I do agree that the lake is, has taken on a lot of pressure and stuff, and that's had a huge effect on it.
Yeah,
But with forward-facing sonar and stuff like that, you've got a lot of people that are now targeting those suspended fish. But those bass, they're feeling that frequency. It's hitting them in the face. Are they going? They got to adjust to that at some point too. I would imagine that now they've had this security net of just being suspended out there over nothing, and now people are realizing that there's a lot more fish suspended out there over nothing than than the ones that we know about from bass behavior, stuff like that
absolutely.
around the shallows and stuff. But it's interesting, man.
There's already got like I've heard talk some of my North Georgia buddies that told me about. You got the all the Herring Lake spotted bass in the North Georgia region, Hartwell, where the Classic just was. Well, those spots are known for suspending off of a point, suspending over a brush pile, typical behavior for them. And so, in comes this forward-facing sonar. Well, even in the last year, since most regular bass anglers on those lakes that I just mentioned have been implementing the forward-facing, I've been told that even those fish are now hip to being in that sonar cone of the forward. So guys will pull up, they'll use that sonar to find those fish. They'll see them, hovering off of a point or whatever. And then before they make a cast, like we're seeing on TV right now, the guys are casting to them while keeping the sonar on them. They'll actually move the sonar completely off them and then cast, because if they're too much in the cone, they're too spooked or they're too aware that something's unnatural. So even in this short time, fish are already being conditioned to that type of sonar.
Wow.
So it's kind of even more of an argument that us kayak anglers, or these guys that get in the back of a creek, like I think we're going to have a few more fish that aren't as pressured, because this new technology is letting other fish get exposed. So it's ebb and flow with the whole thing as it evolves, huh?
Yeah, man, definitely. Uh, you know, I wanted to ask this question. I was talking with Ashley all yesterday, and he was telling me he was excited that you were coming on and stuff, and we both kind of have this question for you, because tying into, kind of shifting gears a little bit here, but tying into your guiding service. You got a really good reputation of knowing what you're doing on Dale Hollow. So I think you won a couple of tournaments out there, and man, you were right there in this past one in December on the Tennessee Bass Nation Trail. Got second, just a couple of inches behind Tom. And we both wanted to ask, was the ice fishing rod necessary, or were you just flexing on all of us?
No, that was necessary. So, I got my Hobie in January of 2021, right? And before that, I was in a Bonafide. Well, the transducer on both those boats sits in different positions. The Bonafide, it's about where your feet are, so it's a little bit in front of you. And then in a Hobie, the transducer is basically like it's following your spine straight down. It's almost like right under your butt or even a little behind it. And if you're trying to do the ice fishing, the vertical fishing thing, the Demiki rig, video game fishing, you got to keep that lure right in the sonar cone. And in the Bonafide, I was able to do that with just like a standard 7-foot spinning rod or whatever. And the deeper, there's a certain sweet spot in the water depth where that lure will stay in there. You get too deep and it gets kind of tough, too shallow, and it can't quite find its way in the cone. Well, I got it down in the Bonafide because I was in the Bonafide for years and years. And then I get in that Hobie, and I'm loving the Hobie, but I'm like, man, I'm having the hardest time like keeping this lure in the cone. And I knew it was because of the position of my transducer. So I was like, I don't have even my like 6.6 rod like is still too long. So I was like, well, I guess it's a gamble, but I'm just going to buy an ice rod. So I just ordered like a $30 ice rod online. And I think the first time I used it was at the Hobie BOS Broken Bow last year. And it worked like a charm. It kept that lure right in the cone. Now I knew I was like, now fighting an open water fish with that rod may not be ideal, but we'll worry about that when we cross that. Like, I just wanted to see if I can keep the lure in the cone for now. And dude, it worked perfectly. And Del Hollow is an incredible lake to do the vertical thing on. No matter what lure you got tied on, you can do a lot of vertical fishing out there. And yeah, I that tournament, it was funny. I was like, my spot was very much a vertical bite, and so sure enough, it got me a good check on an ice rod. I know I look goofy. I feel goofy using it.
No, you looked
But
awesome, man. That was
it
some
serves its
rock
point.
star stuff, dude.
It serves its point, man. It did exactly what I needed it to do, and I've even showed a few buddies or clients the same thing. How that's maybe a route. I've even had a few guys, well, anglers that do well message me after that. But hey, man, what ice rod do I need to get? So I don't know. Maybe seeing more of that. But yeah, that little $30 ice rod has paid itself off already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see an Adam Reiser, ice rod
Yeah,
special
right.
in the future.
The iceless ice rod, like something like that.
The ice. Yeah, dude, David,
Melted
this is
ice
why.
rod.
This is why I like having. This is why I like doing this, man. Because I've had that same issue. I've nowhere near done the vertical fishing as much as you have, Adam. But I've tried it, especially during the winter, and I've had that issue before where I'm like, do I need to turn my seat, or do I need to turn around completely? Because it seems like I just had a really hard time getting it in the cone. I even called Garmin, was talking to them about it. They're like, man, you shouldn't be having, So I'm glad you mentioned that, man. I'm going to give that a shot.
It's tough. The settings on your graph are easy to do. They're pretty standard, like pretty old school settings. It's if you're pushed around by wind, depending on what boat you're in, like being able to like kind of turn on a dime is important. That's why, like when I was paddling the Bonafide, just one quick little paddle dip would position me how I needed to. And I doubt I could do it at all if I didn't have the 360 drive in the Hobie, because I can essentially do the same thing with that drive too. I'll forget how beneficial that 360 drive is when I'm out with a client that has a 180 drive or any type of just like only forward or reverse pedal drive. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget that I can really, really get picky about where I need to hover over my lure. And if there's water current or wind current, that all affects how your lure is going to drift underneath your boat. So there's a lot of things that have to go right, and you have to have almost like you're like multitasking. You're like looking at your graph, but you're also looking at the angle of your line going in the water, and it's a lot going on at once. So once you get over that curb of realizing that you got to have all these things kind of line up, then you can get
Yeah.
out there and it just becomes second nature. But it's fun, man. It's addicting. Like I've wasted days where I've like, well, I'm going to go throw this type of bait today, and then I end up just vertical fishing the whole day, even if it's nothing but catfish and crappie that I end up catching.
Let me ask you a question about your, I guess the angle of your cone. So like most of your stock settings, I think a lot of cones are on that kind of, was it 19-degree cone angle or something like that? I think the Garmin's are
Yeah, I'm
19
not sure the
degrees.
actual number on that degree thing, but I know what you're talking about.
Do you do you tighten yours down to get a clearer picture when you're vertical fishing, or do you go for a little bit bigger picture there with increasing the angle of your cone?
I forget the actual frequency that I use on the Humminbird. For me, the biggest thing is utilizing the amplitude scope or the A scope. I did it when I had Lowrance, and it's a big deal on the Humminbird too. It's basically it's a live read, more or less. It's kind of like doing the live forward facing. It's just right underneath you. That I can see with that thing. And once you tweak your settings a little bit, I can tell how well, not just that my lure's in the cone, but how well it's in the cone. And the same with the fish, because you can tell like, oh, there's a fish following my bait, but I can tell he's like a few feet behind it. And this is all just with traditional 2D sonar here, nothing fancy. It's probably what most guys have.
Yeah.
But I can tell some subtleties with that, and that you got to tweak your settings right. You got to spend some time with it to get to that point. But man, I just have a set it and forget it setting. Again, I apologize for not knowing the frequency that I have on my bird, but yeah, I just switch over to that setting and then it's good to go. I don't have to mess with anything else.
I hear you, guys. If you got any questions for Adam, pertaining to this topic or anything of nature, man, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. This is a great conversation so far. I mean, we're learning a lot more than what we intended to. We're going to take a real quick commercial break, guys, to just give thanks to one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Proudly powered by Battleborn Batteries. Let the power of lithium take you on your journeys across the outdoor world. Battleborn Batteries designs and assembles the industry's top choice for lithium-ion batteries right here in the USA. Reliable, safe, and long-lasting, Battleborn makes for the sustainable and lightweight drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries. Ready to make the switch to lithium and the switch to green energy? All batteries are in stock now. Shop today at battlebornbatteries.com.
All right, guys, we're back. We're at Lines In Live, and we have with us Adam Reiser. We're having a great conversation, talking about his guiding service and talking a little bit about some sonar and just everything else under the sun. Got a few people in the comments. Steve Law, hey guys, what's going on? Steve Baker commented you, Adam, said you're the best dude. And Brandon
what up,
Palmer,
Steve? If that's Steve from Ohio, yeah, he's a good dude too.
Good, man. Glad to have him on here. AJ Hansen and Thomas Davis. What's going on, Thomas? Adam,
Thomas,
AJ's got a question for you. He's asking, what's your favorite swim bait? Do you ever swim bait fish in tournament settings? I'm guessing he's talking about maybe big glide baits. Adam, AJ?
Yeah, he's probably talking about the bigger stuff. I'll tell you my favorite one now is the one that my dear friend Mark Schwanier has been making. If you want to go over to Instagram, check out Bass Brains Co. Look that up, or just go on my Instagram, Adam Reiser Fishing, and it'll be linked on the profile page there. It's worth me mentioning it because I feel so strongly about the quality of these baits that are being made. So when I lived in California, Mark was my roommate, and I toured with his band a little bit. Mark is an incredibly talented guy in many fields. He's traveled the world as a photographer, a musician, a videographer. He's done like custom like motorcycle painting. Like if whatever he wants to do, he'll drop out of life, learn how to do it for a year, and then he'll be the best person doing it, period. No exaggeration. Well, I kind of haphazardly got him into kayak fishing. And then I was telling him about big swim baits, and then Next thing you know, he's in his garage tinkering away, making swim baits, and fast forward 2 years later to now, and he is making these incredible swim baits. So he's got a glide and a wake bait out right now, and I had a lot of input into the design on these baits, but the craftsmanship and the fine details are all Mark. So I do want to credit Mark for those baits, but we wanted to come up with a bait or some baits that weren't oversized to where you couldn't justify throwing them in a tournament setting. And I felt like there's this void in the Southeast. I definitely took some swim bait knowledge that I garnered out west and brought it back here, and was throwing glides and stuff years ago, and seeing a lot of success where sometimes they were the only thing that would catch fish, and would end up winning me like monthly tournaments. I think I've cashed multiple checks where I had key fish caught on glide baits and bigger baits and whatnot. But we really, with Bass Brains, we really wanted to come out with, a wake bait that you can burn or creepy crawl it. And the same thing with the glide, one that you can go as slow as possible, but also when you reel it fast, it's not going to blow out. And so far, those baits have been a hit. Now, this will be the first spring that they've been out there, so we're already seeing the photos come in from all over the country of guys catching big ones on it. And
nice.
I'm excited to I absolutely will be using those in some tournaments here very, very soon. I got Sandy Cooper coming up in a couple of weeks here. One of my favorite fisheries, a true big fish place. I don't know how I won't be able to use some of those baits there. I'm really excited. So,
is it one of those deals for you where you look for an opportunity to throw the big bait? Do you have it tied on when just about every time you go out, or is it like, hey, real specific conditions, I'm gonna have this with me? I like
clear water. I like clear water in general, not just for big baits. I gravitate towards the highland reservoirs typically. I think it all stems back from out west. So many of the western fisheries tend to be like clear, long points, deep, very contour, whereas you get in the southeast and you can go to a grass fishery where it's all cover related, stumps or grass or rock. Like there's a lot of cover out here. And something about that clear water and understanding and learning bass behavior by watching it with your eyeballs is a big part of my fishing. And that coincides with the big baits and glide baits and stuff like that, is you get to watch, even if you don't hook up to the fish, you get to watch how it responds to certain movements, or, those glides are notorious for pulling fish out of cover and exposing them. And then you can drop a waypoint and go hit them with the traditional bait on tournament day. So it just coincides with my emphasis on visual education of bass fishing and everything that swims under the surface there. I love getting in clear water and just taking note of everything that's not a bass swimming around in there too. It gives me I can get the answers I want a lot quicker by just looking at stuff than I can by feeling my way out through stained or muddy water, or by casting around or fishing or looking at the graph that way. So as much as I love looking at a graph, I'd rather use my eyeballs first and then go, and then probably instinct second and then graph last. But obviously the more you get comfortable with the graphs, the better off you can be as well. But that's my long answer for the swim baits, is go check out Bass Brains. But any of the typically recommended baits are good. Mega Bass makes good ones, whether it's the soft baits or hard baits. But just get you like a good 6 or 7 inch glide, and then any weight bait. The truth is, with like weight baits, is you can tie on. It doesn't even have to be a lure, as long as it makes an awkward disturbance on the surface. Something's going to eat it at some point. You can't do that with other baits. It just has to be the topwater things. But you can do some really ugly, weird looking topwater baits and they'll still catch giants. But my buddy Mark dialed in those Bass Brains ones, so go check those out and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
It's good stuff. David, you had a little bit of success on a bullshat out there at Broken Bow last year, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On Broken Bow?
Did you hear me, David?
Yeah, I did. I caught a few at Broken Bow on a bull shad. I like throwing a big At Gibson, I catch a lot of them over here on Gibson as well. But yeah, I caught a couple of pretty good ones, more in practice than during the tournament. But
Yeah. Adam, did you fished Broken Bow last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I hated it. It kicked my butt. It was like me and Scotch, Josh Stewart, Russ, and Cody. We were all camping, and the highlight of that trip for me was the camping, and we caught a bunch of like sawguy and crappie. And Matt Scotch, when he ain't fishing, he's a chef, and so anytime you can have him prepare a meal, you're living right. Dude, I could not figure out the bite on there. It drove me nuts. We were. It was pre-spawn, right? Yeah, it's pre-spawn.
Yeah.
Man, I was looking. I love sight fishing. Sight fishing's right there. It's my favorite way to fish too. And I could not find beds. And that place set up for something I would like. Deep, clear. It was all there. All the elements were there. But I really, really struggled at that tournament. I couldn't make anything happen how I wanted it to. So I think that's cool that you're able to get some activity on the glide bait and practice there.
Yeah, that tournament. Last year was really my first year actively fishing in a kayak in a tournament setting. I'd fished a few the year prior, and I lost more fish in that tournament than I put in the boat. I had just a horrendous tournament. I mean, had a limit in day one in the first hour and a half, 2 hours. Felt like I was doing really well, and lost several key fish. But I knew I was in trouble because I did not. First time I'd ever seen the lake. And when I went to board check, I told AJ, I said, I am in trouble. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I put 93 inches of fish in the boat today. The first area I went to, and there is no way this is going to go well for me. And it did not. And I just could not land my fish. But I'm getting better at it. I'm learning. I wish I'd have known about you about 2 years ago, because I guarantee you I'd have been paying for a guide trip just for you to help me learn how to fish out of this silly little boat. It has been a big adjustment from going from a 21-foot Ranger into this. But I love it. I mean, I sold my Ranger. I absolutely love it. You can ask Justin. I meet up with it. And I'm still trying to learn it, but I'm doing better.
Oh,
but we're gonna
He's coming around. He's fluffing a little bit there, Adam. He's a lot better than he says he is. He's really excited about this Kentucky Lake tournament because
What's the date for that one?
April the 9th.
Yeah, it should be right. It should be right. When does that lake hit full pool? That week, right?
Now, well, it'll begin to get close to full pool that week. It should be about a foot low typically. But, with
still good
rain around here, you never really know where it's going to be.
Exactly.
I mean, if it'll hit 359 or 360 though.
Oh boy, that's what you want.
Best.
Give me 360 or 361, and I'm flipping bushes. That's what I was talking to a guy messaged me on Instagram, and I was telling him, I really used to like fishing Kentucky Lake during the pre-spawn or right before they went on bed, and you could just focus on those gravel transitions, crank a red or yellow crankbait all you want and probably have a really big day. And then once they started spawning, I just flip bushes. There's people that would fly in from all over the country and pay a guide to just go bush flipping on Kentucky and Barkley, and that may be my favorite bite in my limited time on that lake there. But the water level's got to be just right for it. You get 6 inches too low or 6 inches too high, and it's almost not worth doing anymore. But man, when that happens, so I don't know that I'll be able to make it with you guys, but if there's any time to show up to Kentucky Lake, first couple weeks of April, that's probably about it. Same with Pickwick too, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no
doubt. Adam, so we got one compliment from Thomas about your guide service. He says his confidence in his offshore game is a lot better because of your abilities, man. Teaching. So good testament to what you're doing out there, man. What kind of the majority of your clients, is it pretty scattered out? Are you getting a lot of, because you've seen the sport grow, man. It's getting up there, and I imagine with these gas prices, there's going to be a lot more guys selling their Rangers and getting kayaks.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of new anglers getting into the sport, calling you up, or is it kind of pretty even across the board?
My first several months or first year or so, like my clients were all over the place between boats, kayaks, seasoned, new guys. But it seems like the last year or so, it's been guys that already are involved in tournaments and they just want to step their game up, or they know that they're getting close to some wins and they need to kind of solidify that last piece of their puzzle to feel like they can have a shot at winning every time out. And I feel like that's been my clients recently, which in all honesty, that's my favorite one, because I'm big on teaching a lot of concepts and theories and my opinions on bass behavior and bass migration. And the guys that are most eager to learn that are the types that I just described. And so I think those are my most common ones, but again, it's also my most preferred ones too. But I mean, if someone knows nothing at all, we're still good to go. But if you've already got some time and you just need to, finally step it up, or you feel like, hey, I may want to, commit to a full tournament trail this upcoming season, but if I'm going to do it, I want to go in there with the most confidence possible and feel like they could benefit from a guide trip. I've seen a lot of that too. I mean, I've had multiple guys be like, this is my year. I'm going to go out there and do some damage in my local club or in my regional stuff, or I'm going to do a whole trail. And I've seen it work. And I love instilling confidence in people. I love educating and being able to get out on the water and do that. And I'm lucky that in Middle Tennessee, because at first I was just saying, hey, I got out of Percy Priest Lake right here in Nashville. Well, then I realized, like, after doing a trip on Dale Hollow, I'm like, man, there's so much stuff that I can really drive the point home based on what fishery it is. Like, I had a guy come up from Louisiana for a guide trip, and I'm like, well, I can't take a dude to Dale Hollow. If he's going to be fishing Louisiana, that's not going to do him any good. So I'm like, what's the next best thing? I was like, let's do Gunnersville. Like, you got a lot of grass coming from like Louisiana, East Texas. Like, that's probably going to be the closest thing you have. So we did a trip on Gunnersville, and that's how I think it was best learned. The other day, a guy wanted an electronics trip. Now, he lived in Atlanta. And so I was like, well, you want to do Lanier? Because Lanier is one of my absolute favorite lakes to graph on and implement electronics. And he was like, yeah. So, even if I've done a guide trip on a certain lake or fishery, it doesn't mean that I'm an expert on that fishery. It just means that is the best venue for what the goal is for that trip. Yeah. So I'm not afraid to drive if I need to, or meet you at a lake, or wherever we can accomplish the goal best. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Man, that's really awesome. Do you think that a guy getting into guiding service right now out of a kayak, could choose a lake, Percy Priest, whatever it may be, and be successful with the way the sport is right now?
I think so, especially if you're in these markets or regions that have high head counts of angler participants. Yeah, I think so. I think the one thing that has just stood out to me is, like I said earlier, like, I think it'll be a lot harder to guarantee, like, we're just going to catch a whole bunch of fish. You either got to have like a honey hole that you really know, or probably have like a motor where you can tow your client around and really cover some water. Because as we know from fishing our kayak tournaments, like, we often have to be able just to pick apart an area as it is, and not just run and gun miles and miles and miles all over the lake. So I would say, as long as you can. Yeah. Now, again, if you're doing some other species that aren't largemouth or smallmouth, then yeah, you might, because on Percy Priest, there's guides that, especially after live scope, like, they got no shortage of clients wanting to catch all them hybrids out there. And dude, I get it. Good on them for it. But I need to stick to bass, and I need to stick to more like tournament strategy stuff. And, I guess if I lived on like an absolute premier lake, I could advertise more of a, hey, let's just go catch them that day, because all you got to do is show up and you stand a really good chance. But until that's the case, I kind of like doing it how I do it now.
Yeah, I definitely think you got a good thing going on, man. It's really cool. You don't really see, I mean, you see a lot of the bass boat guides, they'll do like, Gunnersville, Wheeler, Wilson, Pickwick,
Yeah.
But that's kind of in a contained region, at least driving distance. But that's really neat, man. I had a question. Just escaped me. What all trails are you fishing this year? I want to say, man, I haven't really seen you in very many tournaments yet this year. Maybe I just missed you.
Nope, no, you're correct. This year, when all the different trail schedules came out, I was least excited about them compared to the last few years. I've basically quit fishing KBF, and then like the Bass or Bassmaster stuff or Bass Nation stuff has been second to Hobie BOS. Like, it's the pretty common opinion that AJ and Steve and everyone over at Hobie and running that BOS series, that's their premier series, both in the way that they care and concern for the anglers, but also it's kind of regarded as like the highest level of competition in our kayak sport too.
Yep, definitely.
So definitely wanted to get in, and I've been lucky enough to make TOC for the last 3 years now, I think. So I knew this year I wanted to do that, but my goals are a little bit different this year. I am totally okay with really cutting back on tournaments, and I might only get 3 Hobies in all year, because the idea is I'm going to try to ramp up the content. I'm going to have the cameras rolling on the kayak. I'm going to try to translate that into a YouTube channel. I live with Russ Snyder's now, and he's got the same sentiment that, hey, let's put a focus year onto content creation. So we are very much in the works right now of like plotting, scheming that, getting the camera gear in order. And that's going to be the goal this year. And then likely next year, I'll jump back into saturating my schedule more with tournaments. But yep, gonna forego. So I'll get in when I can. Tuesday night or sure with the local club. But as far as traveling and everything, it's going to be a little less for me this year. I think I'm going to do Hobie Sandy Cooper. I'm going to do Hobie Eufaula, and then Hobie Chickamauga are the only ones that I got going on right now. If we would have been back up to La Crosse or where there's a few places that I would have for sure gone in on those too. But a few of my favorite ones aren't on there this year, which is totally fine. But it's probably just going to be 3, maybe 4 Hobies, and that's about it. If I can sneak into like one of like the Tennessee Bass Nation ones or one of the Georgia Bass Nation that Steve-O or Daniel Davis does such a good job, I'll get in on those when I can, and fishing club stuff. But I think just getting some content and probably doing some fun trips or some river trips or where the goal is just let's get some good content and see what we can do with that. Get creative and try to get the brand out there a little bit. Trust me, that whole idea, you don't know how unappealing that is to me.
Oh my God, yeah.
I do not like the idea of like talking to a camera like first person without anyone around. Just gives me the creeps, but I'm gonna have to do it. Thankfully I've got plenty to talk about, and I like talking about bass fishing, but so we'll see. We'll see how much all that transpires and happens. And it was actually supposed to happen some last year, but a couple fried GoPros kind of stifled that a little bit. But yeah, content over tournaments. We'll see how it goes.
I'm with you, man. It's that's the last thing on my mind in the morning before launching is putting that camera on my boat. And honestly, we got too many. I've got having one rod standing up behind me is enough, more than I want standing up behind me. So just the idea of having more cameras, hanging out off my kayak, that's more, line snags and that's the only downfall.
Charged and all that. It's been. I'll give a shout out to Christine Fisher because we were lucky being Dakota teammates. Like this past year, we did a lot of staying together at the house. A group of about 6, 7, 8 of us a lot of times, and it's so impressive to see her not only fish well, but film and narrate the entire day. Come back at the end of the day, and she'll edit a video before bedtime. And that work ethic and quality is just endlessly impressive. So it's doable. It's there for the taking. Like there's definitely a big void in our kayak industry of guys doing it the right way. In the names of the guys that that you do watch on YouTube or you do follow, like everyone's got those same few names because the same guys have been doing it well for a while. So it's time for myself and a few of the other guys that are the road dogs and hit these tournaments hard. We got to step up and help grow our sport and promote it by and grow our brands by getting some content out there more than we do. Like, I can easily get a grip and grin photo out there. That's no problem. But that don't cut it at the end of the day if you're trying to make some waves out there. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good luck with that, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the content coming out from you and Russ, because I noticed he too wasn't in as very many tournaments this year so far yet. But that's awesome.
He'll get more than me, but yeah.
Yeah. So we got a question from Steve Baker. He's got it's specific. Last hour of a tournament. He needs a kicker. The month is June. Ohio Reservoir Lake. What bait you throwing? And he said he's asking for somebody else.
In June in Ohio. Oh man, you might consider just driving out of Ohio.
Just head back to the ramp. That's what he said.
Yeah. I don't envy anyone who has to fish in Ohio regularly. Gosh, no, that doesn't count the Great Lakes guys. You don't count. I'm talking about like middle of Ohio.
He's got down to specific last hour of the tournament. So
hey,
Steve,
okay, I got you a legit answer. In June, you're gonna have plenty of post spawn. You got your early summer fish. You're gonna have those still a good group of fish that are lurking shallow. I'm gonna tie on a buzz bait and I'm gonna hit only shade. I'm gonna fish only shaded bank, probably in the back part of a creek with a buzz bait. You gotta feed them the buzzer sometimes. Just a black buzz bait. That's a Bubba fishing. The fish catcher right there. That catches big ones, dude.
That's the
you win money on buzzbait, straight up. You'll win some tournaments. You'll win money, or you'll win like Big Bass the event. That's a big fish bait. A buzzbait's won me a good chunk of my kayak money for sure.
Oh man, you've already put it to work. I saw the picture come out earlier today or yesterday.
Oh, that was a frog one, dude. That was a frog.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, that was, but here's the thing. So like that's one of the managed lakes here, and I don't pat myself on the back too much on the managed lake fish. Like, yeah, they're fun, but you don't have to guess that they're in there. You know, I know you guys got some out your way, or you guys got some of your club schedule too that I may or may not frequent. Like a 5-pounder out of a big lake or out of Percy Priest or something is way more of an accomplishment or something that I'd get excited about than like a 7 or 8 pounder out of a managed fishery. Now, I'm not slagging guys that do want to fish those or anything, but there's a lot more work and a lot more considerations that go into catching a trophy fish out of a big fishery than it is a glorified pond, you know?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of these ponds, man, they I don't know if the management can keep up with them, the amount of pressure they put on them sometimes, because
you ain't kidding.
They do not stay secret for very long. I mean, I've seen some guys out there, Nashville area, you know, I'm like, I know that's Browns Creek, you know, so.
Dude, I've been to Browns twice this year, and nothing so far. Nothing. No big ones, you know. I'm only there for big ones. I don't care about anything that's little.
Yeah.
Only those. But I'm on to some good ones now, and I'm going to exploit them all. I'm in a little monthly one, but man, I know going back a few years ago, and like me, Derek Bosick, and Josh Stewart, like we would enter every KBF monthly, and if it wasn't a Kentucky lake fish, it was probably those managed lake fish that were making up part of our winning limits.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Oh hey man, you know, at least you know we could say this about the managed lakes is that you can always rely on those for some good content, and nobody's going to care like, hey, that was Browns or whatever. They're going to be like, dude, you know, it's going to be eyeballs.
And still learn a lot too. There's still a lot that you can learn, and even just like landing a big fish is something in itself. You know, it's a different thing. Like hooking into a feisty 6 or 8 or 9 pounder and learning how. You know, we've all if anyone's who spent time at those managed fisheries, you probably lost a bunch of those fish. Compared to how many actually landed. So just learning how to get a bite from a trophy class fish and then landing is a whole thing itself. So yeah, probably to learn and take in anytime visiting one of those. So nothing against it, but man, they're getting beat up. And I know some guys are live scoping them there. In the wintertime, those fish kind of only get in one area. So it's a little bit of a fish in their barrel thing doing it there, but you know, they exist for a reason. One of my favorite things about those managed things, you don't got to worry about drum or gar or trash fish or, going like, what am I marking down
Very
there? Like,
true.
it's the right thing. And so, it shortcuts you to the, a lot of the answers where you could be wasting time elsewhere.
Definitely. Well, man, it's been really exciting to hear about this kayak, and I guess I owe you an apology. I thought that you just recently started this in the past few months, but
I've kept it
I guess you've been
kind
doing
of
it.
low key, and since I don't have a website, I could easily see how someone really know about it. So no apology needed. It's kind of been like a semi out there thing.
Yeah. Well, we wish you the best luck with it, man, and I know we'll see you out on the tournament trail. David, you got any more questions? We're running an hour, 18 minutes.
No, I mean,
It's flown by, man.
it's been an interesting conversation. I've enjoyed listening to Adam. I had not met Adam before, so this is kind of new for me to hear his take on a lot of things. So I might just have to come book a trip with him just so he can kind of
Come
help me
on.
with confidence level on some things. So I'd be interested in how he looks at a tournament strategy and how he looks as he goes forward into a tournament. So we might just have to talk about that here before too long.
I
So
want to try. I want to try to join you guys, man. I've known Matt Skelton for a long while, and I tell him every year, you guys always have one of my favorite club trails schedules every single year because, I love Bay Springs, Gibson, Kentucky Lake, Pickwick. These are all some of my favorite places to go to, and I think I've made a Kentucky Lake one with you guys before, and then other ones that I thought I was going to make it, I didn't quite make it. So. Hopefully I can just fish with you guys or join you at some point here. Cause again, I think your trail schedule and your club is, one of my favorite clubs. Was it is CJ? Is that dude CJ still?
No, CJ came back for a little bit last year for like 2 tournaments, and then I think he went back to work overseas. So
That's kind of what I thought. CJ and Matt Skelton were like the guys that I first met like many years ago, and
yeah,
really appreciate all you guys ever since then. But you guys got a good
it's,
club, good crew out there.
yeah, it's a lot of good guys, man. You get to be like a family, and I'm sure it's the same way out there with you. I mean, it seems like every time the state championship, everybody is just one big family.
Yep, that's it.
So I mean that's what's awesome about the CAS organization. And I don't know if there's another state like it that has that kind of organization where the camaraderie and just everything about it, man, you just feel right at home. So. But well, dude, man, it's been awesome. I definitely want to give you an opportunity if you want, man. Sending shout outs, any sponsors you might want to thank, anything like that.
Yeah, if you're in the North Georgia area, Dugout Bait and Tackle's down that way. The Premier Tackle Shop, they seem to be getting the reputation these days of if you need to kind of pimp out your kayak, boy, they can do it, man. They're innovating all the different bells and whistles that you can put on a kayak without sinking it. It seems like Yak Attack, been with them for a while, and they make all the accessories that most people use. The thing I'm most excited about, they got a new black pack coming out here in I think a matter of days or a few weeks, 3 different sizes in that one. And man, they revamped that backpack that severely needed an overhaul on a lot of features. And I think you're going to see that in a lot of guys' equipment lineups coming up here soon. And then Dakota Lithium, obviously the batteries are great. They do a good job, but they just support our sport and our kayakers. And I think that's really important. We've seen some examples that we don't talk about where some companies don't take the kayakers seriously or see us as more of an inconvenience or something. So a brand like Dakota getting behind the kayakers on a big degree, a big level. I've seen that. So I'll give a shout out to them. And then lastly, Bass Brains for you swim bait guys that want to look into a top water, a glide bait or a wake bait. Go check out Bass Brains. Now his baits are hard to get. He'll do a drop every few weeks and he'll sell out like 30 of them in under a minute.
Wow.
No exaggeration. So you better be ready to, it's kind of like buying them hot concert tickets. You better have your hand on the keyboard ready to hit that purchase button. But I think he's going to do some stuff here soon where he's able to generate a lot more baits than just like 30 at a time. So they should be able to more available, but that's it, man. I just appreciate you guys. I think it's really cool that there's podcasts in general that you can talk about bass fishing. You guys are a big part of growing the sport and the continual promotion of it. And I think highly of you guys as people and as anglers out there out in West Tennessee. And man, especially like the last several weeks, how many social media stories have we seen of guys fishing in miserable cold conditions? I'll give a shout out to your whole club for fishing that Pickwick tournament.
Oh,
The
that was
the
brutal.
worst cold weather to fish in is where it's a degree above freezing and raining. I have fished tournaments in the negatives, air temperatures in the negatives, or like well below freezing. I'll take that any day over the sleet and rain tournaments where you're wet and windy. That's the most cold you'll ever get, or those, and that's what you guys dealt with, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
They all did. I missed
the-
that one. Thank God.
yeah.
Hell,
The weather prediction was off, and there was quite a few guys that left the rain gear home because it was not supposed to rain. And that first drop hit my jacket, and I was like, "Here we go, man." I mean, you just know. I mean, this time of year, once that moisture starts coming down, it typically don't stop. But yeah, it's brutal, and I'm with you on that, man. It's awesome doing this. We have fun doing it, and growing the sport and getting to talk to guys like you, learning and growing together, man. I just love everything about this sport, man. Just to be able to do this is another piece of that. So it's cool, dude. Contact information, stuff like that. How can people get in touch with you to book a guiding trip? And we should have covered this earlier.
No, it's just a quick Google search. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Adam Reiser Fishing on both of them. Just shoot me a DM. Like I say, if you're trying to get up with me for a guide trip or get some quotes on stuff, just shoot me a DM. I apologize for not having a website or anything, but like any person who does reach out to me for guide considerations, there's kind of like a little checklist of things I got to ask you first. Like, you may, because I can provide all tackle or we can use all yours or any, we're in the middle there. So like, I need to know like what side do you reel your bait casting with or that, so there's like a little checklist of things I need answers for. And then we can kind of decide on where and, what the goal is. So it's not just a quick answer before we got to just cover a couple little details and kind of figure out what's going to be best suited for that specific client and what I can do best to make it the most successful trip. But yep, just give me those, hit me up on Facebook Messenger or Instagram, just shoot me the DMs. We'll make it work.
Sounds good, man. All right, brother. Well, we will see you out on the trail soon, I'm sure, man. Have a good rest of your night, and good luck to you and the rest of your year and all that kind of stuff, man.
Appreciate it, Justin, David. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. See you later. Well, David, I'm just tickled to death that we got through a live feed with no hiccups,
no technical issues. For
nothing.
This was a momentous occasion, if for no other reason. But I really did enjoy our conversation with Adam. That was a good interview in general. So
that was awesome. Absolutely.
But yeah,
I love when we tail off on topics that we didn't really intend to, but that's the beauty of this, man. We can have a direction that we're going to go or a specific topic that we want to cover, but then you get the guy or gal on, and then we get to talk about other stuff, and then it's just like, man, you just go down that rabbit hole that you don't really want to come out of. It's like, hey, I don't mean to get off on the live scope deal, but it's just an interesting piece that ties into the direction of the sport. And then, with his business, the guiding stuff, I know that is going to be a huge piece for guides, moving forward, is getting that education with the forward facing sonar. But hey, it could potentially hurt guiding a little bit, because, man, you got it right there in front of you, but we'll see. Everybody that tuned in tonight, we appreciate you all. We appreciate Primary Tackle and Battleborn Batteries, our sponsors, guys. Adam made a really good point. That these companies that support our community, not just kayak fishing but bass fishing in general. It's important to go out there and support those companies that are out here supporting us. You can go and you can get the cheapest price at a big box store or something like that, but or a company that's, getting the stuff from China. But, companies like Battleborn Batteries that are made right here in the United States, primarily they're assembled here, and the majority of their contents that make those batteries are made right here in the U.S. It's important for us as Americans and people in the sport to support that in those companies. So, David, anything else you want to add, my friend?
Well, thanks to everybody for watching tonight. Looking forward to spending some time on the water here before too long. Come out and see us at the shop. I guess I should talk about it. April the 2nd, we're going to do a kayak days here. We're going to have a bunch of boats set up for people to look at, a few other things set up. Still finalizing some pieces to that. We'll be talking about kayaks, kayak setups, trolling motors, all that kind of good stuff. Come out and see us.
Bring your questions. That's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Forward to it too.
All right, guys. Well, y'all have a good night, and we will see y'all next week.
Thank you.